All right, we're live on the God is Awesome podcast. I have Jake Motisi, or
Hello.
Monty, depending on how you pronounce it, on the podcast here today. Thanks for being here, Jake.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. This is a first for me. I finally have the time to do this.
Well, if you had already been on the show, I probably couldn't have you again.
That's true.
So it's always a first. That's good. Hey, those of you watching, thanks so much for watching. Jake is one of my close friends. We've really kind of developed a good friendship over the years, and so it's been really cool to see how God has been working in his life. And so I'm really excited about this interview and this podcast today. Jake, tell me a little bit about. For those of you watching too, we usually talk about our testimony and what God has done. So generally with a testimony, there's a before, a change, and then an after. So tell me a little bit about how that started out for you. Somebody just said Jakey Poo on the side. So
That's me. My old Instagram handle. No, so I never really grew up in church, and that's the times I tell my testimony to people. A lot of the time, I count that as a blessing, and what I found out is that I compared it to a lot of other people, and like being like religion in general. And so not growing up in that environment, and then hearing about everyone that I know that has grown up in churches that are, just teaching crazy stuff, it kind of, to me, treats it as like, wow, I'm glad I didn't have to go through that, because I was essentially like raised right in that sense.
Okay.
So I never really grew up in church. And for 15 years, I lived in Jersey. So like, all of my time was spent up there.
Is that old Jersey, or if you live in New Jersey, you can just say Jersey?
No, it's the new one. It's not the old one. Okay. So I had to deliver.
Old Jersey. All right.
So I grew up in Jersey. I was just a 15-year-old boy. And then, I tried to skateboard. I broke my leg. That didn't work out. That was it. That was my life.
Sports.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah, I mean, we would play here and there, but I would always be the one that's like, let me be the ref this time.
The inside joke here, people, is that Jake always makes these jokes about sports with all of his vast knowledge, which really is
very little. Just like my knowledge of a lot of other things, it's very little.
Yeah, right. Not true. We'll find out later in the testimony all the amazing things that vast knowledge is doing for the gospel now in ministry. There's a spoiler alert, kind of a Quentin Tarantino moment. But before we get there, tell me, how did so your family wasn't necessarily involved in church, and then what was it like growing up without that, and how did that work out?
So my family they would go to church, Christmas and Easter, maybe maybe like Good Friday, Christmas Eve, the big two Christian holidays, but nothing really consistent, nothing really, that's it. So growing up, I mean, I had always known there's a God. Like, I just kind of had that knowledge of, or the idea of, like, I know there's a God, the end. That's all I got to worry about. But the more, obviously, again, jumping forward now, like, there's a lot more than that. Even just with saying that sentence. So yeah, I just kind of treated my life as like, try to be a good person. It was morally good. Was kind of, I wouldn't say then that was my philosophy, but looking back, that's what don't be a jerk. That's my rule.
That's interesting. And I love how you said, there's so much more to it than that, but you had this like intrinsic knowledge. If you even just thought about it,
yeah,
there was a God. But and you'd show up on the holidays because that's what a good person would do, right?
Yep.
So I guess there's probably people watching who are just like that, who are coming that time and they think that that's probably just enough. And you're saying that for you, you found something different, something more, and
Yeah.
realized in your life that that wasn't enough because there's implications if there is a God.
Yes.
If
Yeah.
that's true.
The more I think about it, it's kind of like a catch-all. Like you get like the people that grew up in church, that know the traditions, that they like. That's it. That's how it has to be. And I think that's great. Like I don't want to like try to sound like I'm bashing anybody. And then you get the people that aren't Christians, religious or at all, and they just don't go to church. But I think, and this is part of this is I was telling you a little bit before, like just God has blessed me in like a bunch of weird ways, I think, and this is one of them, that I'm like a middle ground, I would say. Like I didn't grow up in church, but I knew there was a God, but I wasn't like devout Christian, but I wasn't an atheist, and so it was kind of like I knew there was something, but once I started, no, I'll just continue the story if you care, if you want.
Don't mind. It'll make the interview go better if you do.
Yeah.
Stop here.
You don't have to think about questions anymore. I'll just talk.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Jake podcast. So I moved down here in 2009, in like October, and for like about a month or so, I was like, a 15-year-old kid who didn't have friends, who didn't know anybody, and so my aunt, who knew about Sunlight, told me about their youth group, and I was like, okay, I might as well go. Like, what else am I going to do on a Tuesday night? And let me tell you, Tuesdays were like, even now, like Tuesdays are the day. Like that's where my week starts and ends on Monday. It's like it flipped it. I started meeting people that I went to school with, and so we started walking to church beforehand and just hanging out. And so, what was that?
And getting free pizza.
And getting free pizza. I just got free pizza again. It's great.
It keeps on giving, Clark.
Yeah. So because of that, now there's a lot more, even just to like the background of the church stuff that I didn't know about before. And so kind of moving here kind of shifted my perspective in that sense. And again, looking back on it, and I think that's a big theme for me in my life, is like when I look back, I could definitely see the blessings, but obviously in the moment, I did not think that was going to be a good thing, because I was like, I don't have friends. I have to restart a whole life essentially. In the middle of high school too, like I was a sophomore, so I invested a lot of time into a bunch of people up there. So yeah, I mean, it completely changed, how I lived essentially, and what my thoughts were on that.
So then, what was there a defining moment when, like, God really? We talk a lot about what it says in the book of Ezekiel 36:26, that God removes your heart of stone, gives you a heart of flesh. Do you have like a moment? Did that happen through youth group? Tell me a little bit about that.
It wasn't a full, you hear a lot of stories, and again, this is like, I feel like I'm a good middle ground for this. You hear a lot of stories of people like, like Paul, in Acts, when he like, bingo, Christian, that's it. And then you hear other stories where it was just like a slow incline, and I think I would lean more towards that side. And so fast forward a few years, I've been coming to youth group for about a year or so, and we went on a mission trip to Georgia, and this is actually my first memory of you.
Oh,
or I should say my first official memory. I don't remember. I remember you, but this is the first time like you've actually made a connection, made a relationship with me.
Sure.
So we were going into my, I want to say senior year. We went to Georgia and we were working on this house. And I don't remember what we did, but that was it. And so we decided one night it would be great to share our testimonies. And I was like, uh-oh. I don't have one of those. And so, we went around the circle and everyone was sharing. And afterward, they were like, well, Jake, you didn't share. And I went, okay, that's fine. And they were like, no, come on, you got to say something. I was like, okay, I guess, peer pressure, which isn't good. But in this case, it was, because it kind of put into perspective, like, yeah, I kind of got to essentially get my life together or understand at least what I was doing there. And so I was talking, and I got to this point where I was like, and now I'm here. And so people were like, well, wait, are you a Christian? And I was like, I don't know. I don't think so. And they were like, wow, I didn't know that. And so later on, we were up in the guys' room, and some of the guys, I think, I definitely remember Kyle Gum being there. And yeah, you and him were like the two people on that trip, obviously along with everyone else, but that I remember vividly being there with me, because he didn't get to hear it the first time my testimony, the first time I said it. So he was like, oh, you got to share it again. I was like, oh, great. And I'm not, if you know me, but anybody else, I'm not like a mushy gushy kind of person. So I was like, I don't want to talk about myself again. But anyway, it ended up being a great thing, because afterward he said, can I pray for you? Like, I didn't know that. And I was like, yeah. And we prayed for me. And I think that moment, I could tell there was something different, and I didn't know fully what it was. But still to this day, like, that is I would say my deciding moment of when I became a Christian.
Because someone took the time to listen, talk to you, pray with you.
Yep. And then the next day, actually, I got a call from my advisor from school, and they said two of my favorite classes, culinary and band.
Okay.
This is where you come in.
Oh.
Yeah. So, both of those things I'm very passionate about. And I didn't know exactly what to do. I was like, they overlapped time-wise, and so they said you have to drop one. And I was like, great. Both of these things I could see myself doing, and I don't know what's going on. And so for a few hours that morning, I was just debating in my head. I was like, what am I gonna do? Anyway, I talked to you. I think you were grilling hot dogs or something. And it looks like you froze a little bit, but you were grilling hot dogs. And that was, so I told you about it, and you were like, well, what do you think God wants you to do? I was like, I don't know. How am I supposed to know that? And so you kind of sat and talked with me a little bit. And again, I don't remember the exact details, but I just remember you taking that time to invest in me and talk to me, and you prayed with me, I think. Or at least you told me to pray, and then we prayed. And yeah, that was it. That was the moment. And then I decided to pick culinary. And it looks like you're gone. But anyway, I'll just continue my testimony. So I picked culinary, obviously. I had to roughly tell my band teacher. Got his keys? He's got his keys. It's all good. I'm right here.
Is it still going?
Oh yeah, we're still going. It says live.
Oh.
So you can just toss it on the floor.
Look.
One of the benefits of
I'm
being
here.
near each other is that we could both be in the same frame.
Oh, it looks like I'm back on. Wait.
No, you've been like that.
Oh.
You froze when I was talking about hot dogs. So I don't know how much you heard from me.
Boy, that's an interesting strategy here.
Yeah.
Let me, you continue talking.
That's what I was doing.
All right. Hey, breaking the fourth wall. I'm going to be over there in a second. Let me go figure this out.
All right, I'll finish the story.
All right, good.
Anyway. So I picked culinary. And that was probably my second biggest blessing, because that opened up opportunities for my first job. And it was just a great learning experience. So as Jason was talking about me being knowledgeable in certain areas, that's probably one of them. And so anyway, we got back from the mission trip, and if anybody's been on a mission trip, or if you want to be on one, I highly encourage it. Even if you're not a Christian, even if you are a Christian, if you don't think you're able to, if you don't think you have the knowledge, like it's ridiculous the amount of stuff that I've learned, even with Jason helping me understand stuff, you know, like construction, working with him and like people like Mr. Paul, who used to come with us a lot. Just like basic stuff that I don't think I would have known aside from being there. And so and on top of the Bible, obviously, duh. But I highly encourage it. And so if you've been on it or you know, you get back from mission trip and you get this like mission trip high of like, yeah, I'm going to go, you know, one time we got back from Puerto Rico and we were like, we're going to go clean the beach. And we did it 1 week and then it kind of trailed off. And I think that's just natural. But what I think is really cool is the memory of it. And because of that, I have, like, I keep remembering that time. I don't know if he's back. I keep remembering, you know, coming back and like wanting to know more, wanting to further essentially my faith. And that, I mean, man, that opened up so many possibilities for me. You know, coming to youth group here and actually listening to the message, the sermons, and the worship music. I was involved in a band then, so Jason taught me how to play bass. I learned guitar, and you know, I know how to play piano just from, you know, my past. And so just it's been opening up a lot of opportunities for me. And you know, I talked about how we used to walk here after school. We used to walk here after school, and it was maybe a half-mile walk. We would hang out, and I remember people like Aaron, like running through his sermon with me, and like I would get to ask questions to like the youth pastor, and it was really cool to have that opportunity, just of all of the knowledge, not just, you know, with Aaron, but people like Jason, people like Scott, like they were there. I got to ask them questions. Like, I think that it just made me feel like I was part of a family that was open to teaching me, not like somebody who was like, okay, let me just give you a book to read and tell you to go read it. And now furthering down the line, maybe about another year or so, I graduated high school. I started working at Spiro's. Shout out to them because I love their food. And Jason's back.
Wow. I have no idea what just happened. Keep going.
It's all good.
Very interesting.
So just to catch you up, I talked about how you told me to pray or prayed with me after to like kind of find God's direction for my life. And then how much of an opportunity it was to be able to be here, like after school and stuff, to talk through like questions with Aaron, questions that I had about, like with you, and like all of this like source of knowledge that I've got from being here. Like I said, it kind of made everyone, me specifically, feel like an insider. Like, oh, I got to talk to the pastor. You know, like it's like people getting to talk to like their favorite directors or whatever, or artists. They're like, oh, well, what inspired you to do this? Like what? And having that, you know, ability to do something with people I respected, you, Aaron, Scott, everyone, was like crazy. Anyway, now we're fast forward a year and a half. So I worked at Heroes. I was still coming to youth group. I was serving as a youth leader. And just being there early, helping other people out, not just stuff for youth group, but I was helping the children's director out. One-off things here and there that, and I guess people noticed that. And so they offered me, hey, do you want to be an intern for the children's ministry? I said, yeah, jump on it. Let's go. So I started doing stuff for children's ministry. I taught Sunday school. I got suckered into that through Tommy.
Suckered into that.
That's my favorite story.
Very children's ministry worker. Thank you for your service. We love you.
How else do you get involved in a church? So Tommy, one of the other youth leaders there, had offered to disciple me, And so he took that time and he said, well, here's the best idea. Why don't we meet before Sunday morning and you can help me teach Sunday school? And so he's tried to like double up messages. And it worked. I mean, I still have all of my curriculum, like the laid out stuff, written down in a binder. But he took the time. We would meet, sometimes go get breakfast or coffee, and then come back, teach Sunday school, and then go to service. And man, that was crazy. Like when I talk about like stages of learning, that's like, I thought becoming a Christian was one thing. Then there's more, like being discipled. Then there's, even more than that, just like actually learning how to read the Bible. And so all of the steps that I've seen in my past, I could see getting to here. And I'm super excited to see where it goes from now.
I think what's awesome is, Tommy, as an example, took that opportunity to say, hey, I want to pour into you. And those of you that don't understand the word discipleship, have never heard of it, basically they read the Bible together and looked at the themes of who God is, of the gospel that runs through the whole Bible, this truth about who God is and is foreshadowed from the beginning and is played out into the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. So pretty awesome that he took the time. So now, and these are people that are relatively your age, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I was 16 and however old you were back then.
Well, Kyle
was my age, yeah. I was going to make a joke about you.
I'm a decade older than you. I like 10. I act younger than you sometimes, but...
I've heard your jokes. No, well, yeah, I mean, I would put us on relative age.
Yeah.
Within 5 to 7 years, I think.
Right.
Yeah, Tommy, same thing, was only, I think Tommy's younger than you, I think, right? I don't remember.
Yep, he's only 2 years older than you, I think.
Yeah. It was like crazy, like how close people were. Now that I think of it, in my mind, I'm like, oh, you guys are like adults. You guys know better than I do. And like, again, looking back on it, we're jumping around on my timeline a lot, but when you and I did discipleship, and I hope you think this too, I hope so, but I think we both learned from it rather than
much.
Like, I don't think discipleship, is a one-way street. And I know Scott talks about it a lot, but it's more than just like sitting down, reading a book, and then calling it a day. It's like you build a relationship with people.
Right.
And that relationship, I haven't talked to Tommy in a little bit, but that's still there. Like whenever I see him, I still like greet him like I would. And so it's building that relationship, but relationships are two ways. Just like Jesus says, like, hey, follow me, build a relationship with me. It's two ways. Like he's fully given himself to us, but we're still like learning and growing and like maintaining or helping maintain that relationship at least.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the biggest revelation. Let's do general overall. I think that's like the main point of everything is like people building relationships, not just through my life, but just in general.
Yeah, that's so cool about the gospel is this idea that, this idea of reconciliation, right? That we've been separated by our sin, our choices to try to be God ourselves, but then God reconciles, right, and brings us back together, and this relationship that otherwise would have been broken, and He does that through His life, incarnation, Jesus' life, and then poured out into His death. So He lives a perfect life and pours out His all that perfection onto us, takes our sin and is punished in our place. So what's really cool is this idea that you hit it on the head, and it's probably because you're involved in a lot of branding and figuring out how to do all that here.
Maybe,
but it's all about relationships, right?
Yeah.
Our relationship with Him and our relationship with each other.
Yeah, it's like I would say yes and no to your first statement that just because I'm involved, I know it. Because yes, that helps. I mean, obviously, but looking back and seeing how that's played out in my life, I think speaks way more than me just being here.
Awesome. I totally agree.
Yeah, yeah. Excuse me. I figured you would.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, fast forward now. I'm full time, and that's pretty great. And all the media stuff, like, you know, I think having that knowledge of me, I think that first knowledge of understanding that it's built on relationships helps me be better at what I'm doing, because that's like real for me. You know, it's easy for a lot of people in, I would assume, my position to just kind of say, yeah, I kind of know what that is. Here's my idea. But to actually like understand it and like have that be a part of your life, I don't know. Again, I think that's a huge blessing. And looking back on it, I'm like, yeah, I get it now. It's, oh man, it's insane.
Right now, right now is during the COVID-19. I mean, if people are watching this 20 years in the future, this right now in time, the virus is around and there's shut-ins, and you've been working with our team and leading the charge of video production to create an online worship experience for people. And tell me a little bit about, I mean, you've just been awesome. I just want to tell you as your friend,
Well, thank you.
I'm so proud of you. The stuff that you've been doing is unbelievable. The learning curve that you've done is out of this world.
I don't even know how I'm doing it.
Yeah. There you go. That's at the back.
That's a God thing. That's a God is awesome right there.
Yeah, exactly. But what are some challenges and some thought process that you put into creating a worship experience that doesn't happen in these four walls, which I think is maybe what we're called to as Christians, right?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that and what some of the struggles or difficulties or some of the things you've been doing.
Yeah. It may come as a shock to a lot of people. I'm fairly introverted when it comes to like myself. I know.
Yeah.
I think I have a good judgment on like when I need to be introverted and when I don't need to be. And so because of that, I think that's my biggest struggle is trying to put myself in other people's shoes, like the empathy part. You know, this is my favorite story about this whole COVID time is that first week that we filmed it, The Bread of Life, or no, it was the one before that, Wait on the Lord, Habakkuk 2. We had, I think as the church, we just decided to like, hey, we're canceling service. We got to figure something out. And so Saturday we got together, filmed the service, got the worship together. And then I was here most of the night editing and rendering and uploading. Because all of the animations, everything we had to kind of like come up with and create. And so I tried to find something that was a medium between like modern that somebody would want to watch on like YouTube or Facebook or whatever. But then something that still wasn't like cheesy that made people think, this is just like kid stuff.
Let me stop you there for a second, because that I think that's really, really interesting, and I don't want to move past that without pointing it out. So one of the strategies that you used is not just, a lot of churches, what they just did exactly what they do in a worship service. They just put the camera there.
Yeah.
But one of the thought processes that we had to go through, and that you were one of the main leaders in speaking, is that, hey, this is an opportunity for evangelism, talk to other people. It wouldn't normally. So you want to use what people are watching, right?
Yeah.
Just like Paul did when he talks about the Greek poets in Acts, right?
Yep.
He says, here, this is what your poets are saying. So you're trying to use the I guess, YouTube poets to create something that is a worship service, but is not just
like, not just like generic, like, this is anybody else. I also, and this is me and Bill both like talked about it too, is we want it to be like the best quality we can, We have the ability to, why not do it?
Right.
There's one thing I like from Nike, and it's not their prices, it's their slogan of just do it. I think, that's kind of my thoughts for a lot of things is like, just do it, see how it looks, make it the best you can be. I know personally, I know I could do it really well, and hopefully you guys can vouch for that. But
cool, because you were loving the people.
yeah,
It would be easier for you to do exactly what you already knew, easier for you to do exactly. But the thing about the gospel is it changes us to think about other people, and especially who are the people that are going to be participating in our service, in our watching this, in our content. And so I really love that about the way that you're thinking, and that just shows awesome growth. Go ahead.
Well, even more than that, you know, we talk about this a lot at the church, is like Jesus met us where we are, right? He didn't make us, and I think it says that in Hebrews and everywhere else, maybe Galatians too. But he met us where we are. Like, he didn't wait for us to be, Romans 5:8, that's another one. You know, he didn't wait for us to be like, okay, we're washed off, we're clean. Like, we haven't sinned in a day, so let's get this done. No, he came to us as a human. He didn't, you know, rule with an iron fist from the sky, but, you know, he came down, humbled himself. And I think a lot of my thoughts for designing and stuff like the video making is the same kind of thing. Is what are people, you know, like you said, getting where they're watching already, you know, they're already on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and all that. Why not we keep doing that and like turn into the skid rather than trying to like really stick with what we know. And the funny part is, you know, we're starting back up Sunday, so hopefully we'll see 25% of you guys. But you know, now we're trying to see, okay, well, now what's going to happen? And so I'm super, you know, whatever God's going to do, I know it's going to be great. I'm excited. Yeah.
And that's really cool. I think, though, that even though that we have this, you know, this is the Sunday or the Thursday before the Sunday where we meet back for our first time in person, some of us, I think that this ministry and the way that you've been so focused on people, we're reaching people that we never like reached before. Do you think this is something we're going to just put away, or is this something that exists forever?
No, I'm a big advocate for even more so turning into it. We've been spitballing a bunch of ideas of ways to kind of keep it going and even do more than what we're doing now. You know, regarding like Bible study curriculums and stuff like that. I don't want to give too much. I don't know how much I could say, but
don't.
All right, then that's it. Maybe some music things in the future. We got a bunch of stuff going on, and just to see it continuing and seeing where it could go, man, that's like, it blew out of the water even what my mind could have pictured like 3 weeks ago, let alone, you know, 10 years ago. Yeah, 10 years ago. When I moved, I would have never pictured myself where I am now.
That's cool.
You know, in high school, I thought I was going to be a chef. Okay, that's not happening anymore. I can cook, but that's it. So, you know, that's 10 years. Even 3 weeks, like, you know, I think when the Bible talks about God using everything for his good, he literally means everything.
Yeah.
Not like, what was that?
Even a pandemic.
Yeah. And like, okay, yeah, it's easy to say that through hard times, and I get that. I don't want to like diminish that people's, you know, experience hard times. But even then, he still uses it in the big and small. Like, I think if I had to sum it up, that would be like my biggest God is awesome moment, is understanding that like God is the biggest thing that we can ever imagine, but also takes himself down to the smallest us, like humans, and still knows each one of us and wants a relationship with us. And he does the same thing with our problems, with our, you know, families, with our lives, everything, you name it. And he's just like a big ball of Play-Doh.
Just want to sit on that big ball of Play-Doh for a second just to let that. No, I really love that, Jake, and I'm so thankful for your heart and the way that you go above and beyond for everyone and for everything, and how you credit that to responding to the gospel. That really means a lot to me. You answered the question why God is awesome, which I'm super thankful for, and I just want to say that just thank you for being on the show. Also, thank you for your heart. I mean, you let me take a break halfway through the middle of the show. I mean, that's
my podcast for a little bit.
There you go. I mean, you're a natural. So, so I appreciate that, and I just want to say to all of you out there that Jake is somebody who's a close friend of mine that has gone from not even knowing to being sold out in his whole life, dedicated in a matter of 10 years. But in the matter of 3 weeks, God is doing unbelievably different things. So for those of you that are watching, I want to just take a lesson from Jake and say, where you are right now is not where you have to stay. And it's also not set in stone for who you can be or what you can do, because God has better plans. And so, Jake, I just want to say thank you. Any last thoughts before we close?
God is awesome. Follow us on Instagram at Sunlight Church. Subscribe to our YouTube.
Excellent end card.
Yeah, you're welcome. No, it's weird being on this side of the camera for once. I'll say that. I mean, there's so much stuff that I didn't talk about. Like, I didn't talk about our discipleship, getting licensed to preach and all that fun stuff. And that was a big part too. Just to add into that, cram into that 10 years period, got baptized, got licensed to preach, got a full-time job in church that I love, learned crazy talents that I wouldn't have ever thought that I would have learned regarding like video editing and stuff like that. I mean, there's just so much. And, I think the biggest takeaway, like you said, like in a 10-year period, I'm trying to get myself in the frame. 10-year period, God has like used my life, but in a 3-week period, He still just used it as much. And I think the thing that I think about that is that God doesn't have a time frame. God's not on like a schedule like I have behind me. He just does it and it happens. And regardless of what it is, good or bad, He's going to be using it for His good. And I think that's like the biggest takeaway, I think. I mean, there's a bunch of Bible stories about that. You name it. Just open the Bible.
Everything for the good of those.
Yeah.
Some Romans 8 stuff right there.
Or even like, what is it, Genesis 50? When Joseph says, what you intended for evil, God intended for good.
Good.
Yeah.
This kind of look at you dropping Bible verses like they're hot potatoes over here.
That was the first thing we read, I think, you and me.
Yeah, we did. And then we went through Hebrews too.
Yeah.
And then we went through the minor prophets.
No, minor prophets, then Hebrews.
Oh, okay.
Because then after that was the licensure.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, like I said, there's a bunch to talk about, but I think that was like the condensed version.
That's great.
And man, I love it.
Awesome. Well, Jake, thanks again.
Yeah,
time for today. I just want to say thank you and reminding us that God can do amazing things because He's awesome. And between now and then, thanks again, Jake, and thanks to all of you that are watching. If you want to be on the show, write in the comments. You can click the link to sign up. We hope you do, because God is awesome in so many different ways, and your testimony is just one of the many ways that God is impacting the world. So check that out. Thanks again, Jake, and God bless you all. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Thanks, Jake.